the air campaign from a distance, and I've seen something I've seen before from the Air Force. The Air Force reaches a certain point and it runs out of genuine military targets. And then it says, what do I do? And then you go through this process of trying to justify hitting large quantities of infrastructure that have no real military utility or value at all, because that's what you can see. That's what doesn't move. So I think we're engaged in an effort to, quote unquote, destroy Iran, destroy its infrastructure, try to make its population as miserable as possible. But we haven't achieved, contrary to what they're saying, all these great goals and objectives. And as far as a nuclear capability is concerned, I would say that whenever this conflict ends, very shortly thereafter, Iran will probably have a nuclear weapon. Because the real lesson people in the world are drawing from this campaign is, if you don't have a nuclear weapon, you're a middle-sized power, and you disagree with Israel or the United States, then you run the risk of being attacked. Ergo, you'd better get a nuclear weapon so that you can deter attacks. So I don't see where any of his goals have been met. The other thing is, he seems to think that Iran shut down the Strait of Hormuz. No, it didn't. Lloyd's of London shut it down because a war broke out. Why did the war break out? Because we started the war. We caused the Strait of Hormuz to be shut down because no one wants to risk moving their tankers through the place. So you've gone from 75 oil tankers every day down to perhaps 3 or 4, a total of perhaps 150 or more ships a day. But as far as tankers go, the average before the war was 75 a day. Now we're looking at all these critical shortages. You know, if the fertilizer problem is not addressed pretty quickly, we're going to have famine in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. People, this is a catastrophe of global proportions. And nobody in Washington seems to have cared. The entire focus was, this is what Israel wants, Israel gets. And Israel will never be safe and will never be able to dominate the region unless Iran is destroyed. The words that you hear all the time on Capitol Hill, we're taking Iran off the board. Well, right now, I think the opposite is the case. I think the war to this point is setting up a situation where the Gulf Emirates, along with Israel, are probably going to be off the board.
Call hello, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Bakakwadash, double honors to the apostles of GMS who teach and rule well. Salutations to you brothers in the highways and byways. Salutations also goes out to you brothers and few sisters, the rest of the hopeful elect that tune in to listen and learn. To you all I say shalom. I'm the brother Malak from the Diligent Soldier Camp here in Boston, Mass. And as always, I pray this lesson be edifying to the elect. All right, the name of this one is going to be Prophecy Isn't Probable, It's Definite. Prophecy isn't probable, it's definite. It's a for sure thing, man. And I want to get right into it and get into pull up the book of Revelations, chapter 19, verse 10, to set the mood, man, because this is very important. It says, "And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahweh Shai. Worship God, power, for the testimony of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy." All right. And the scriptures clearly tell you that the Lord comes in the volume of the book, man. All right. These prophecies or these things that are about to unfold, man, you know, before they happen, the Lord tells us about it, man. You know, in the scriptures, it tells you, you know, I'll tell you the end, roughly paraphrasing, the end from the beginning. OK, and as you hear this man talking, man, you know, you can't help but this talking points and things that he says that should remind you instantly of scriptures, man. You know what I mean? And that's actually what I wanted to get or make the lesson on. I know this interview was like maybe almost an hour long, or over an hour, but it was these 3 minutes that I caught that I thought was very spiritual, man. You know, he said a plethora of things, but the ones that I was paying attention to the most, for the most part, was, you know, because we know that this dude Trumpito is a lying sack of shit, you know, and a businessman. So he sells these lies to people, and people eat them up, man. You know, it's factual what he said when this man McGregor, retired colonel, said that Lloyd of London was the one who shut down the Straits of Hormuz, man. You know, and though Trump blames Iran, it's really because of him that because of Trump and Israel that the Straits is closed, man. Okay, and yes, it's a fact also that over 75 something tankers used to flow through them straits daily, you know, and now you're down to just a few a day, you know, as he said, and you can fact check these things, man, you know. So of course, without a doubt, it's going to create shortages, man, on all four corners of the world, man, and especially in agriculture and in man. Yeah, well, I forget the word now, but yeah, agriculture, man, and that's gonna provoke famine to most definitely enter the group chat, man. All right, but the only thing, it's not gonna be like McGregor said, anywhere from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months from now, man. You know, that's gonna happen in the very near future. He knows that he has to choose his words wisely, even though he's saying a lot, you know, by pointing out key factors, like he said in the beginning about the Air Force. After they run out of after they run out of targets, they start making up new targets to attack. Okay, but that famine is gonna kick in way sooner than later, man. It's not gonna be 10 months from now, man. That's gonna be in the very, very near future. Okay, and another thing he was saying was, that he, at this point, what he believes is that they just want to, basically destroy Iran's infrastructure and, just make those people miserable, man. We heard these people, especially these Amalekites, and their rabbis, when they're talking in these videos that come out, speaking of these things, man, openly, blatantly. I mean, they'll say it in their little Yiddish, but they're blatant with it. And the more time comes out, the more you're gonna hear it in plain English. You know what I mean? That I think actually, I think just yesterday I heard one of them rabbis, man, talking about, you can't tell, the laws of around the world apply to all the different nations, but they don't apply to the so-called, to them, right? The so-called chosen. When that's not true, because even in the scriptures it tells you to basically submit yourself to the powers that be, because those powers that be are set up by Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua himself, man. You know what I'm saying? So, there's a lot of things that these people say and do, and it's contrary to scriptures, man, without a shadow of a doubt, man. And to stick to the point, though, I'm gonna pull down a few things that he says, and I want to just bring out scriptures, man, that I automatically was thinking about as I'm listening to this man talk, right? And so the destroying Iran's infrastructure and just blatantly just trying to make those people miserable. I have a couple scriptures. First, I want to get John 10:10, right? That says, the thief cometh not but for to steal and kill and to destroy. Okay, and that's the point of it. The rest of the scripture says, I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. Because at the end of the day, we have Israelites in all four corners of the earth, and there's no doubt that there should be a multitude of Israelites, Jakes in Iran, right? But to stick to the topic, man, or to the talking point, man, when he says, that he's convinced that these people just want to destroy Iran's infrastructure and just make these people miserable, man. This is the first thing I think of, man, because that's all Esau does. That's all he does when he arrives anywhere, man, is he'll talk smoothly, but war is in his heart, is in his mind, because he's just thinking of gain, and even more pleasure he gets is from making the people miserable and have people begging at him, man. This man is the devil, man. Everything that the Lord hated, he created and programmed in this nigga, man. So it makes perfect sense that he is this way. Anywhere he goes, he's going over there with the potential of stealing, killing, or destroying that place, man. All right, this is James 2:13. It says, "For he shall have judgment without mercy that has shown no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment," man. And the reason I thought about this one is because this man can't dig a deep enough hole for himself, man. This man is going to catch it, man, which is why the scripture says, that he, that he's to his cup is going to be filled double, and it's going to be without any mixture. Okay, and no chaser neither. There's not gonna be a time, when he's starting to, because he's already starting to take that drink. But there's going to be times where he wants some type of break, right? Some type of ease, and we're just not gonna give it to him, man. Okay, the Lord is not going to allow that, because they were set and put in place to basically bring hell on earth, man, and they've done it. They've done a great job. I tip my hat and applaud these bastards, man. Okay, but time is almost up, man. And they know it. All right. Yeah, man. Another one, because they definitely want to make their population as miserable as possible, man. Habakkuk 2:5 says, "Ye also because he transgresseth by wine," right? His philosophies. He's a proud man. He walks away with you after convincing you of his bullshit very proudly. All right, and he neither keep it at home. Who enlarges his desire as hell. He desires hell for wherever he goes. He wants to bring hell to wherever he is, man. I mean, this man sprays these chemtrails over the skies, and he lives under it. It falls on him too. He does not care, man. And is as death, and cannot be satisfied, right? Because death can never be satisfied, man. You keep killing. Death accepts the death of people, man. Basically, all right. It cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And this is what he does, man. He has the children of Israel here captive and holds them fast. He's not going to let them go. The scriptures clearly tell you that the Lord's coming back with to get his people, to redeem his people, because his people need to be free, need to be saved from what? From the grips of Esau, right? Because as long as Esau holds Jake fast, he believes that Jake will always be oppressed and never rise up, right? Which is why Edgar Hoover said, even though the internet says that he never said it, but he says that there shall never be another black Messiah unless we raise him up, and an example of those Messiahs raised up or close to is, the Jesse Jacksons and the Sharptons and the MLKs and, things of that nature. These people that they notice that are influencers, and they go and they basically infiltrate their organizations or compromise them, man. You know what I mean? Because Jake just don't have integrity. You begin to know and learn about integrity, man, when you come into this truth, and how important it is to have it. Because even these men in the world that are have so-called integrity, man, it's a carnal integrity. It's a carnal morale, man. It doesn't pass that, but with Israel, with the elect, is different. Okay, we was here since the foundation of the earth, man. So we have a special connection. The hopeful elect or the elect, definitely, we call ourselves the hopeful elect, but the elect definitely has a special connection with the Lord, which is why those are the ones that are gonna be saved in this first go around, man. Okay, and then the rest of Israel that eventually came out of the first fruits will also be saved and saved and at rest in the kingdom, man. But first, all these things have to happen. Okay, hold on, this thing. Okay, another thing he said was what the rest of the world is learning while watching everything unfold is that you need nuclear weapon or run the risk of being attacked, right? And that's so crazy that the word devil itself means slander, right? Deceiver first, right? Deceiver, slander, I think liar, and attacker. All right, and these are things that Esau does, the so-called white man, the devil. All right, that the Bible speaks of. Okay, and so yeah, that's what people are seeing, which is why his allies don't want no part of what he's doing, because they know and they see that he's moving crazy, man. Okay, and I'm talking about particularly Babylon, because Salakia, this is not Babylon style, man. For decades they've been avoiding attacking attacking Persia, because they know at one point Persia was their biggest ally in the East, man. All right, the I think it was the CIA. They had a whole headquarters stationed over there. Not even in Europe. Okay, they had them stationed over there. It could well be. They could have had them in Europe too, man. These devils don't trust anybody but themselves, but they don't trust themselves neither. If you catch my drift, man, because they're the thieves, man, and there's a saying in the world that says there's no honor among thieves, man. These people can't help it. These are kleptomaniacs, man. Okay, as the scripture says, they take lands over and they shape them and they carve them up, shape it up to how they want it, and then they slap their dirty ass name on it. You know what I mean? They call it after themselves, man, and then pass it down from generation to generation, man. Just bringing hell upon the people. Where am I? This is Joel 3, and I'll start at 9. Okay, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Okay, prepare war, wake up the mighty men. All right, this is why I named it. So like your prophecy is improbable. It's definite, because it's gonna happen, man. These are things that are on the works right now, man. All right, the miserable state of not only mind but also society, that how society is and these different nations, is all because of this man. Okay, and he's not going to stop until the Lord puts an end to it, and this is what it's accumulating to or leading to. All right, let me actually move out the way. There's a moving truck. There's a moving truck that wants to get up in here, and I'm just gonna get out that way. Salaki, y'all can bear with me. Bear with me, and I'm gonna get on that Joel. I'm gonna close up soon. I didn't want to make this too long. So it says back in Joel 3 and 9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men. This is what we're doing in the streets, in the highways and byways. We tell them, yo, man, just push the button, get ready. Get ready for these things, man. It says, prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Okay, it says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. These were known as instruments for agriculture. And he's telling them, turn them into weapons, basically, because it's no longer a time of peace or rest. It's a time of war, okay? Because the scriptures tell you there's a time and place for everything under the sun. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong, okay? This is why this man McGregor says, what this is going to show the people is that you need the big guns to prepare you to defend yourself from these big nations like that, like Babylon, that especially Babylon, that just wants to destroy people and take people's resources, just plunder the land, grape the women, the children, traffic them, trade them for wine and all of that, and nothing but death for the men. This is why the earth, the scripture says that when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. Man, look around the earth, man. If these people were the chosen ones in that land, and that prophecy already hit back in 48, 49, whatever, then where's the Lord, right? Where's King David? Where's peace on earth? Where are all the nations drawing near to Israel to learn about them? And in fact, you get the total opposite. These people are trying to strong arm the earth to get these so-called promises that were promised to them, okay? Or these promises that was promised so-called to them, okay? I hope I didn't confuse I think I confused myself almost there in that saying. But anyways, it says, assemble yourself, right? Because it says clearly here, let the weak say I'm strong, because these people are going to have the mindset to also go into making some, go into buying and developing nuclear capabilities to defend themselves. Not so much to attack, man, but to defend themselves, because here it is, these people been around for thousands of years, Persia. This motherfucker just hit 250, and 90% of its time has been at war. So this place is ripe, man, is ready for the picking, as they say, man. Maybe not just like that, but somewhat like that. It says, assemble yourself and come all ye heathen, right? And gather yourself together round about, because these are the people that are looking and saying, man, we gotta, you got Europe and other places, that other heathenistic nations that have nuclear capability, and they have their arrows, right, their ICBMs and whatnot, but there are others that don't have it, and they're allied and being guarded by bigger nations, man, such as Russia. Where Russia is being a guard to all those surrounding nations there. They just happen to also be Muslim, also Islamic, whatever, however you apply that to these people, man. That's their belief. Even their God is a whole dummy. Where's Allah through all this, and where's Hashem through all this? Because we can never cease to remind you that Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, is here, and he's doing all these things. Okay, the living God of Isaac and Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, man. Okay, and this truck is getting a little too close to me. Chill out. So again, it says, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourself together round about. Thither cause the mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. All right, because we're asking the Lord to do these things, man. The scriptures tell you that he's hearing the groaning, all right, the pleading of us, asking how much longer we got to suffer these people, man. And then the scriptures tell you that if it wasn't for the Lord shortening the days, there will be no flesh being saved, man. To be saved, we're in the brinks of that, man, or the cusp of that, right? This man wanna, if he can't have the earth, nobody can. All right, so he's playing that game where he's trying to, put this thing together so he could be, a one world government, But at the same time, his contingency plan is like, well, if we don't get it, we'll destroy this whole shit, and that's it. Let the heathen be wakened. This is verse 12. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, the Lord's judgment. For there will I sit to judge all the heathens round about. So it's like, how is it, like a one stone, two birds with one stone? He's gonna make Esau and Amalek, get destroyed. All the other and these other nations that are also joined to them. You know what I'm saying? And simultaneously get at all the rest of the heathens too. Whether they have a lot of power or they're low hanging powerful nations, man. It don't matter, man. The Lord's gonna be like, gotta compare the Lord nowhere near this demon Oprah. But as Oprah was saying, and you get judgment, and you get judgment, and you get judged. Everybody's gonna get judgment, and including even the house of the Lord is being scrutinized right now, man. But we're going through these straits right now. We're going through the trial, through the fire right now, so we could be at that time, refined and stable in our minds with what's going on earth, man, because this is all prophetic. This is which is why I said, when this man was talking on this interview, it was reminding me, these talking points were reminding me of these different scriptures, man. And it's actually the spirit that you brothers and sisters also should be in, man, listening to these people say, because the Lord speaks through men. All right. Not only the prophets, but, specifically through the prophets, but, he'll put the spirit on certain people to say certain things, man. Right. As the scripture says, I will pour out my spirit upon all men. OK, and they shall prophesy. This man don't know that indirectly he was prophesied, man, because these things are going to happen, even though at the end he tried to shed some doubt. But, he knows that he'll get shut down, too, if he says too much. And who knows? He might be a insider. You never know. You know what I mean? These people are very conniving, very subtle, man. All right. I'll leave you with this last scripture in Joel. Let me see. Yeah, because we was already in Joel, actually. Salak Yakim. I almost lost my... Oh, no. Yeah, that was it in Joel. To 12. And then I was going to get Jeremiah. Jeremiah 50 and 45, man, because he said, what was it? He said Israel will never be safe. You know what I mean? Israel will never be safe, and this is what they so-called trying to achieve, right? Peace and safety through their carnal means, which is their technology. And who leads the way with technology right now in this side? Well, Israel. I mean, at least that's what they claim. Okay. He also says that he also mentioned that that the Emirates are gonna get wiped out too. And hey, that's not only them too, man. This is also gonna this dirty harlot Babylon is also going to receive of that, man. Receive of that judgment, man. And let's prove it with this, and I'll leave off with this one. It says Jeremiah 15:45. Therefore, hear ye the counsel of Yahweh, that he has taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he has proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. The least of the flock of their flock, right? Because the whole flock of Edom, there's a least. There's a people in there also that are least out of all of them, and that's the Amalekites, man. The 48ers, you so-called tiny hats, man. I'll leave it at that. I want to call y'all so bad, man, but for the hopeful elect's sake, these lessons got to be put out there, man, and whoever's gonna have to listen to it or has to listen to it, the Lord is definitely gonna draw them near to that, man. But to stick to the topic, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. And the scriptures tell you that this place is going to be wiped out completely from one coast to the other. You're not going to be able to know where any border is. You won't know when New York begins and Rhode Island and Connecticut starts or ends or whatever the fuck, man, where it begins. And you're not going to know no border. Even from that bird's eye view that the elect is going to have, if it wasn't for the spiritual power, we wouldn't be able to we wouldn't be able to tell where's where. Even though looking at the U.S. from a bird's eye view, you're able to see northwest, but north, south, east, west, whatever, and Florida and what looks like California, but it's going to be utterly destroyed. So much so that even at some point, the only things that are going to actually inhabit that place is foul birds, man. So I pray that this lesson was edifying, man. Hey, listen closely to these people when they're talking, man. A lot of spiritual communication from the Lord is coming out, man, through in these last days through these people, man. So I pray the lesson was edifying. In closing, I want to give all honors and praises to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Baharakakwadash, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who teach and rule well, being great examples to us younger brothers, still fighting in here, man, holding fast their faith, man. All right, that's a perfect example of how we should be. You know, I want to send out salutations to you brothers in the highways and byways. Stay strong, brothers. You know, we're almost out of here. To you brothers and sisters that tune in, the rest of the hopeful elect, you know, hey, man, stay tuned in, stay locked in, man. We are almost out of here, man. To you all, I say shalom, or probable, or kwam, yasharallah. Shalom.